Uh, Hi, so this is our presentation, seminar presentation for advanced learning paradigm of AI. We have chosen the paper named Uncertainty in Neural Network Word Embedding Exploration of Threshold for Similarity by Naveed, Mihai, and Alan. And this is presented by me, Arinav Marwan, and my teammate Avinav Kumar Singh. So this is our presentation outline. We'll start with basic introduction, then we'll move on to literature review, and then we'll discuss the new thing that is discussed in this paper, potential threshold in three steps: uncertainty of similarity, and then continuous distribution of neighbors, and finally by similarity calculating similarity threshold using the above two. And my friend Avinav will carry on from 4 and 5. So here is some basic introduction about the problem we're trying to solve, or rather, the authors have been trying to solve. So the understanding the meaning of a word and its similarity to other words is like the core understanding of text, and the word is represented by embeddings, word embeddings, because like computer don't understand words, they understand numbers. So we have to find some mechanism to convert the words into numbers. So yeah, in there comes our embeddings. There are some other methods like picturization and all, but they don't understand semantic meanings and capture the relations among words. So the most used approach is word embeddings, where the semantic meaning and the relation between words are preserved, so that we could find out the similar words of a particular word using using its embedding. But there lies a caveat, like how to identify whether the similarity score obtained from word embedding is really indicative of term relatedness. The Kurlgrain paper discussed this issue, and we're trying to answer this question in this study. So, for example, what is more similar to a computer, a sparrow or a star? Or let's say, is a cell more similar to a phone than a bird is to compiler? So we can see like the bird is nowhere related to compiler, and similarly, computer is nowhere related to star or sparrow. But uh, but this embeddings often try to answer these questions as well because they are numbers and we can calculate similarity values. They will have very less similarity, and the similarity value will be very less. But however, there will be similar words if we sort them in ascending order. So yeah, so we have to define a threshold where above the words above that threshold will be considered as similar words, and below that threshold, the words will not be considered as similar, right? So let's say if we calculate the similarity value of a sparrow and computer, and it comes out to be a very less value, and it's less than our threshold, so it will not be these two words will not be considered as similar. Yeah. So the primitive approach used for these tasks were KNN. Like previously, people used KNN to identify this uh, similar words, but there is a problem because KNN neglects internal structure of neighborhood, which could vastly different for various terms. So the idea of this paper is similar words can be identified by threshold and similarity values, which separates their semantically related words from the less or non-related words. But how? So it's done in three steps. First, in first step, the uncertainty factor is explored in a word embedding. Then we introduce a general threshold for separating similar terms in different dimensions, and then experiment on 5 test collections comparing different threshold values as well as KNN search has been done. And for the experimentation, skip gram with negative sampling training, a method for word to big framework is used. So yeah, here is some literature review. In the first paper, they explored semantic topology of vector space generated by random indexing and based on the previous observations. they have that appears different from different terms. And the second paper by the same author, where they identified the different dimensionalities at different angles for a set of specific terms. It is, however, difficult to map those observations to specific criteria or guidelines for either future models or retrieval tasks. And in the third paper by Cuba et al., the paper follows a determining approach to represent the term's relatedness by a tree structure. While they suggest traversing the tree as a potential approach, they evaluate it only on words and syntax and thus. So, based on this, we found some research gaps, like Cuba and Solgrain suggested traversing the tree, but the utility for retrieving similar word remains unanswered. This work complements and extends their approach, defining the threshold on collection and not each word. And also, current observations provide a quantification of Kulgren's claim that close is interesting and distance not. So yeah, it's obvious. And so we start by defining. So how do we find out this potential threshold? So in the first step, we try to quantify the uncertainty of similarity. Let us consider two models, P and M, and the model architecture or the training parameters are given in this container. So the authors have used what to wake SGNS model with subsampling parameter into those five context window of five words if for and they trained it for 25 epochs, and similarly other parameters are given. Also like vocab size was around 580K. So yeah, so these two models are trained, and then the set of term pairs whose similarity is approximately S according to model M is given by this equation where X in the subscript M and Y in the subscript M and their similarity is basically like the similarity of these of word X and word Y given by model M. And then we can quantify the uncertainty by the following formula, where it's 1 over mod of S and sum over all the like similarity pairs present in the set S. So basically, we take the difference of words like we calculate the similarity of word X and word Y by model M, and the same words similarity by given by the model P, and then take the difference and yeah, sum over all the pairs. So that is how the authors have defined the uncertainty. Yeah. And so if we try to observe the comparison of similarity values of the terms book and dwarfish to 580K words between model M and model P. Uh, so we observe that the difference between similarities calculated in the two models appears greater for low similarities and also greater for a rare word like dwarfish than for a common word book. So if we see like dwarfish is marked by the dark black, and a book is like grayish region. So if the points are on the 45-degree line, that means like the similarity given by both the models are close to each other. And if it's away from the diagonal line, so that means the both models are giving some different similarities to the word. So yeah, we find that for book it's quite close to 45-degree line, and for dwarf is a little bit distant. And if we plot the histogram of similarity values of an arbitrary term to all other words in the collection for different dimensions, we see that similarities are in 0.2 to 10 range. Like this range comes by observing the histogram and have positive skewness. The right tail is longer. As the dimension, and also we can observe that as the dimensionality increases, the kurtosis also increases. And Yeah, in this graph, we have plotted the average uncertainty for each similarity value span. Uh, so the observations are as follows. As the similarity increases, the uncertainty decreases, and that for highly similar words are words the different model instances tend to agree. A decrease in as the dimensionality of the model increases. So we can see that uh, for dimensionality uh, 40 and uh, uh, yeah, so dimension 100, uh, for dimension 100, how much is the similarity? It's quite less for dimension 400. And the differences between models decrease as the dimension increases, such that models of dimensions 300 and 400 seem very similar in comparison to 100 and 200. You can see the clear gap between 100 and 200, and the gap is a little less where no, it's actually the reverse. So for 300, 400, difference is more as compared to 100 and 200. And from this, you can conclude that the similarity between terms is not concrete value, but can considered as an approximation whose variation is highly dependent on the dimensionality and similarity range. So now we try to find the continuous distribution of neighbors. And if we plot the probability distribution of similarities for term book to 25 terms in different similarity ranges, we find that decreasing similarity increases variation in probability distribution, reflecting greater uncertainty between models. And also, this distribution represents the expected number of neighbors around a term in the similarity spectrum. And if we plot the mixture of cumulative probability distribution of similarities in different dimensions, we find that the expected neighbors in the area between given cumulative value of term. The values on this plot are actually the number of expected neighbors in the area between the given similarity value of the term. So for different dimensions, the plotting has been done, and we can see that for uh, for higher dimension like dimension 400 and dimension 300, this the expected number of for the same similarity value, let's say for similarity value point 0.2, the number of neighbors are uh, greater for lesser dimension. For dimension 100, the number of neighbors is higher than dimension of 400. So yeah, now we do similarity thresholding. So the question is, what is the best threshold for filtering the highly related terms? And it's the like main question of this paper. That is, we are trying to answer by this paper. So for answering this question, you have to answer another question. What is the expected number of synonyms for a word in English? So the average number of synonyms over all the terms in WordNet is found to be around 1.6. Sorry, it will be 1.6, not 15, while the standard deviation is around 31. And yeah, so why we are saying that it depends on the number of synonyms. So it's also discussed in the paper because uh, we hypothesize that since the general threshold tries to separate the highly related terms for an arbitrary term, it can be estimated from an average number of synonyms over the terms in the language. Therefore, we consider the expected number of synonyms uh, in the wordlet. So yeah, and in this plot, if we see we have plotted cumulative frequency. It's basically the same plot as this one, only zoomed in we have zoomed in the right corner, and yeah. So the cumulative frequency for different cumulative values have been drawn, and some like threshold boundaries have been drawn. So we have put lower and upper bounds above that uh, cumulative frequency. So the dimension for different dimensionalities, the threshold boundaries are given in the table. So you can see for less dimensionality, the cumulative frequency of a word is higher than the higher dimensionalities. So yeah. So now the next parts will be discussed by Avinav. So hand over to you.
Yes. So thank you, Arindam. So I'm Abhinav and I'll be presenting from here onwards. So for coming to experimental methodology, first we'll be discussing that what is a language model and how it is utilized in this study. So basically, a language model is a probabilistic framework that assigns probabilities to sequence of word in a language. So it predicts the likelihood of a word or a phrase occurring in a given context based on some statistical pattern learned from a data set. So for purpose of our study, it does the same. It estimates the probability of generating a query queue given a document D, and the scoring function is just the probability, which is probability Q given MD. So here, probability Q given MD represents the probability of generating query terms TQ based on the document model MD. Uh, Coming on to next page. So there is also a important point to note about language model that it completely relies upon multinomial distribution, maximum likelihood estimation, and it also utilizes Dirichlet smoothing for better performances. Now, for our study, we'll be utilize for this study, the author utilizes language translational model, which is an upgrade to language model. So the TLM, which is a translational language model, addresses the shortcoming of language model by capturing word semantic relationships as well. So here, there is an introduction of a new term which is called translational probability and denoted by PT. It is defined over a set of terms, and this probability represents the probability of encountering term T given that term T dash has been observed. So here is the equation for this, where we can see that there is introduction of PT, which is translation probability as well. So our scoring function updates accordingly. We should also note that translational probability given by PT can be calculated or estimated utilizing various different approaches, such as KNN. But for this study, the author utilizes custom filtering approach, which is also been discussed by Arindam in the section 3.3 for filtering similar terms. Now we'll come to the experimental setup. So for our tests, we'll be utilizing 5 test collection, namely Trek 1, Trek 7, Trek 6, 8, and Trek 2 and 5 hard. So all of them contains mostly around 5 lakhs to 1 lakhs document, and we'll move on to the next section. So the text preprocessing is done by applying Potter-Stemmer's methodology for word normalization, and also uh, around 130 common stop words are removed. So in order to compare the performances, test was conducted on variety of threshold values for each dimension. So for instance, for like 100 dimension, 100T, threshold values ranging from 0.67 to 0.96 were tested. Also, like keeping in viewpoint of comparison, will be test was also done utilizing KNN approach uh, for n value neighborhood value from 1 to 10, so as that in the end we'll be able to do the comparison with our thresholding approach. Uh, so for the experiments, uh, the baseline uses a basic language model with Dirichlet smoothing parameter of 1,000, and statistical significance is also tested via two-sided pair t-test. Also, for our for comparing the results and evaluating the effectiveness, will be utilizing mean average precision denoted by MAP and NDCG as our metrics. Now coming on to the results and discussion portion, we'll be dividing it into four sections. First, we'll be discussing the performance improvements. So it is like observed. It might not be visible from the diagram, but we can see that there is a there is some graph. It increases, goes on to a optimal level, and again decreases. So it might be visible. So it is observed that after introduction of threshold, the introduced threshold consistently improved retrieval performances across all collections compared to the baseline models. Uh, Except for Trek 7 and on the performance metric NDCG, uh, across all other uh, data set, there was a performance improvement. There was a performance improvement for our precision and NDCG as well. So now we'll come to discuss the threshold behavior. So there was a trend being followed, which was uh, there was an increase, like the performance improved up to an optimal threshold, peaked and then declined again. So this trend suggests that too low threshold introduces noises by including less relevant terms, and also too high thresholds overly restricts the expansion, missing out on the useful related terms. Now we'll discuss the impact of dimension. So it is by observing this graph, we can conclude that for higher dimensions, the optimal thresholds was low, and for lower dimensions, the optimal threshold value was high. It is also mentioned in this paragraph, so I won't be reading this. Finally, coming on to comparison with KNN. So we need to compare this the author's approach uh, to a traditional approach, which is KNN. So for this approach performs poorly, especially for n value greater than 2. Uh, as you can see in this graph, uh, the performance of KNN is way above baseline when the k value is 1, k value is 2, but it sharply declines for across all the dimensions for k value greater than 2. So we can say that its rigid fixed number expansion led to irrelevant terms degrading results, unlike the adaptive threshold method. So we can conclude here that the thresholding approach, adaptive threshold method, uh, proved better, showed better performance as compared to KNN. Finally, here are the references utilized in this study. Um, uh, we of course we haven't mentioned all the references, but these were the some resources which we considered going through, and which from which we got the whole idea and all. That's it. Thank you.